blah, blah, blah. Trump hit it the fuck. I don't give a fuck what you think about him. Get out of the cult of personality. This dude stood in front of an audience and said, okay, will you take down Sherman? What about George Washington? Wasn't he a slave owner? He owned slaves. How about Thomas Jefferson? He was a major slave owner. So if you take down Sherman, you got to take down these cats too. What are you going to do? And it was a valid fucking point, but nobody heard it because they caught up in some pieced together sound bites that the media did. It's the same shit. We get caught up in tunnel vision. The party is this because the party bang hard. Why? Because the party is banging hard in the streets. I know cats that bang hard in college, in classrooms, that sit down and have the theoretical dissertations and interactions that folks have to have. You know, Huey and them learned from cats who wasn't in the street protesting. They read books by cats who had never picked up a 12 gauge. So we have to unite both of that mind and that foot and bring them back together. And
Ebonic barbaric hieroglyphs, I spit my gifts, shift your surface with vernacular skill. The raw is near, touching down like meteors, none other than black gods. Stones in my timepiece coming from black stars. Negativity far, keep far away from doors. Single-mindedly destroying the ops and the odds. Just another warrior's quest. The past may get rest. Demons coming for my crown, get beheaded like the next. These blessings never threats, just to verbalize a message, catching energies. The critics, all the Atari get deaded. Pray I stay alert on the field, be skillmatic. In anything my enemies still be dead. Actions I proceed, this life I lead. Beneath it so many seas. So when it's our time to align stars, the spirits lead. Who could war with me? Catastrophically or audibly. Given no choice by God's law, I'm Lucifer on streets.
We gonna get started on something. We're gonna get started on something with substance. We gonna talk. Chairman Yang, how you doing, brother? Peace.
I'm good, brother. How's the body, man? How is everyone?
Please. All right, it's all good. All right, I'm gonna introduce everybody so y'all can know who y'all watching, who y'all talking to. First, I'm gonna go from left to right. I'm gonna start with Chairman Yanga. Chairman Yanga is the national chairman of the People's Black Panther Party, headquartered out of Atlanta. The brother is probably one of the most prolific brothers that I've heard break down Panther ideology. So every time we had a brother on, I myself get a chance and opportunity to learn something. So we appreciate you coming on with us, brother, today.
Thank you, man. Thank you for such a warm welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no problem at all. We got Brother Wall. Brother Wall is calling out of California, San Diego. Brother Wall is the chairman of the San Diego chapter of the Black Panther Party, and he's the chief of staff under Chairman Yanga of the People's Black Panther Party. And Brother Wall is a long-time revolutionary, has put in a lot of work, and he has a lot to add to the ideological discussions when we're talking about Panther ideology, continuity, Panther principles, and Panther ideas. Peace, Brother Wall.
All right, all power people, y'all.
We have Brother E, who's basically just a friend of mine that I just put on here just because I like the guy. No, but seriously, brother, he is calling out of Florida, born and raised out of Fort Worth, the second Minister of Information of the original chapter, the founding chapter of the New Black Panther Party, headquartered out of Dallas. And this brother's his expertise is African culture. Yeah, I'm gonna put you in a box and you just gonna have to take it. His expertise is African culture, African-centered thought. But again, we have another prolific brother when it comes to dealing with Black issues and Black concepts and Black ideas. And considering the fact that the brother is half white, he had to be extra Black. Peace, brother E.
Yes, sir. I overcame. I made it back to the promised land.
Oh yeah, and I'm Brother Syke. I always call myself the Big Brother Syke. And if you don't know me, don't know what I talk about, and I'm going to do a shameless plug, you can check out my personal YouTube channel. It's Brother Syke under Uhuru Shule. My channel is focused particularly on manhood development and manhood training. Brother Yanga also has a channel that I think is important to check out. Again, I say that the brother builds prolifically on Panther ideology and ideological concepts. And I always look for our channel, the Panther 48, for the political education class that we drop on the channel from Brother Wall. We're going to drop another one Saturday morning that Brother Wall just done and put in, dealing with and I didn't drop it today, Brother Wall, because we got this going on today. So I scheduled it to drop Saturday morning, Friday at 12 midnight. But he brought his matter of fact, you tell him, Brother War, what you building on the last political education class.
Basically, we're talking about the aspects of what protest is and the pitfalls of it being utilized as a culture of an organization versus just a tactical move. So we go into the depths of that.
And last week we left off, the last video we dropped, we left off, we got 2 people in the waiting room. Should I bring them in or should I let them wait until we get into some discussions?
Now bring them in. Let's start either start chopping the building. Let's do it.
All right, I just brought a guy named KJ in. And I'm gonna let y'all know when I bring you in, if you ain't got a hot mic or a picture or video, if I can't see you, if you giving me nothing, I'm gonna automatically figure that I'm dealing with an agent or something, and I'm gonna drop you out of the link.
Okay.
The brother KJ breaking up a little bit, but he tried, so I'm gonna give him that. Let's see, we got another brother I'm going to bring in. All right, where we left off last week, this is where we left off last week. Where we left off last week, we were talking about Panther Ideology. We were dealing with the different formations, the different generations, so to speak, of the developments of the Panther. Something we've been talking about for a while, but we wasn't dealing with it from the historical point of view as much as we were dealing with it from an ideological point of view, talking about the growth of the ideology, from growing from Huey and Bobby to where it went when it went to Dallas under Aaron and David Foreman, and then leading into where it ended up going with the new version of the new Black Panther Party, and then the different factions that came out of that and what ideologies those factions profess and feel is the desired direction that the Panther Party need to be taken. So that's what we were building on last week. We were dealing with ideology. But I'm going to start this thing off. I think I'm going to start it off real hot. I got 2 real hot topics I'm going to come at. The first one, and don't get started before I finish, because Eve is a get started. Eve is a come out like a fighting pit bull. Based on the dialogue that we had last week dealing with ideology, guess what, Eve? I'm going to say something that you probably thought you'd never heard me say. I don't think that you was ever actually a Panther. Now hold on, let me say this. No, I'm going to make a point. This is the point off the debate. Yes, you was part of the chapter without a shadow of a doubt. You were one of the brothers on the ground floor. If it was only 5 brothers in the room, you was one of those that was there when we was building the Dallas chapter of the new Black Panther Party. No doubt about it. You own the uniform. What? You own the uniform.
That's a lie.
I say if it was only 5 in there, you was one of those 5.
So I'm saying that's a lot of people. 5. But me, you, and War.
This is the point I'm going to get at. This is where I want to start this debate at. I don't think that you ever actually agreed with the Panther ideology. That's why I say you was never a Panther. You was Panther in formation, and I think you loved the image of the party, but I don't think you ever agreed with the ideology of the party. And let me say this, and then I'm gonna let you start swinging, because I know you finna start swinging your Thor-sized hammer at me. I know that finna happen, but I gotta get this thing started some kind of way. Now, this is why I say this, because now I'm dealing with this objectively, not from a subjective matter, because I do understand that ideology will evolve. It must grow to fit the times that we're dealing with. I understand that without a shadow of a doubt. And when we form that on ideology and try that ideology, and if we see that it doesn't work or if it's lacking something, we're gonna add to it. So it's supposed to be a living thing. So no doubt about it. But if we look at the matter of fact, I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna read it to you from Huey. I'm gonna let Huey say it to you. Cause I know how you feel about my boy Huey. You know, that's my dude.
That's why you saying he ain't a Panther right there.
No, I'm talking about ideology. I'm not saying I'm talking about ideology, and I'm gonna let him defend it. Now, this is what Huey said. He said, the Black Panther Party, which is a revolutionary group of Black people, realize that we have an identity. We have to have an identity. We have to realize our Black heritage in order to give us strength to move on and progress. But as far as returning to the old African culture, it is unnecessary and is not advantageous in many respects. We believe that culture itself would not liberate us. We're going to need some stronger stuff. A good example of revolutionary nationalism was the revolution in Algeria. Then Ben Bella took over. When Ben Bella took over, the French were kicked out, but it was a people's revolution because the people ended up in power. The leaders that took over were not interested in the profit motive where they could exploit the people and keep them in a state of slavery. They nationalized the industry and plowed the would-be profits into the community. That's what socialism is all about in a nutshell. The people's representatives are in office strictly on the leave of the people. The wealth of the country is controlled by the people, and they are considered whenever modifications in the industries are made. The Black Panther Party is a revolutionary nationalist group, and we see a major contradiction between capitalism and the country and our interests. We realize that this country became very rich upon slavery, and that slavery is capitalism in the extreme. We have two evils to fight: capitalism and racism. We must destroy both racism and capitalism. Now, what is your thoughts on what I just professed, E, when I said that you was never a Panther in ideology, that you didn't agree with the ideology?
I don't understand where you perceive the conflict.
Well, the perceived conflict is when Huey just said that he didn't believe that the African culture itself would save Black people, that we needed something stronger. Now Huey, when they was organizing, based the ideology of the Black Panther Party, headquartered out of Oakland, that was started in 1966. They based that ideology on socialist principles. And to give a quick history, not for you, but for the listening audience or those who will watch the video later. In Marxist theory, and I'm gonna give a quick rough one, I'm not gonna give a complete breakdown of the theory. In Marxist theory, essentially capitalism was exploitative, and that the owners of production would basically exploit the workers and pay them the lowest wages possible, with the attempt not to allow them to have any ownership in the plants or in the companies that they was working for. He said that sooner or later, those people living in those oppressed conditions would get tired of that, and they would uprise, they would revolt against the society. They would overthrow the society, and they would take the means of production, the means of capital, and then they would give it to a central committee. This would be the midpoint between capitalism and communism, which is called socialism. That central committee would then redistribute the wealth, create an equal playing field, and then abolish government, and then the people will live basically free under the concept of what he called communism, which the people live in common, and instead of trading dollars, they would trade trades or gifts. If E is a farmer and I am a carpenter, if I need food, I would come to E and build him a deck, and E would provide me with watermelon, tomatoes, potatoes, so forth, so on, so forth, so on. So that's basically the theory. And that's the theory that Huey and Bobby had conceived of to formulate the Black Panther Party under. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't think that you ever actually agree with that theory or that ideology.
Yes and no. And I can accept that. But after having lived it for years, is it that I never believed in it, or I believed in it more than he was aware of? Because all the things he listed about sharing and all of those things are African culture. All of the programs that the party had was African culture. So what is it that I didn't agree with the philosophy he said, or is it that I agreed with the philosophy that they lived? You know, we've talked about it before. Hugh and them didn't have an understanding of what culture actually is, and the history of Marxism and socialism and communism. All of these come out of African communalism. But not having the proper exposure to our culture, they built on a reactionary culture, which in reality made them reactionaries of a European interpretation of what was ours in the first damn place. We never in history ever needed anybody to put up a program to take care of our elderly. We ain't need to do that, because when you got to be an elder, you automatically had your child, the other child, your you got all of these areas that you can live in, your family. We've never in our cultural history had orphanages, because if something happened to the parents, the child lives with some other family. It's just automatic. So feeding the children program, these are all programs that grew out of a reaction to and the application of a foreign threat. And we were so tied up, Huey and them were so tied up in the confrontational aspects of it, whether it's the guns, going heads up, fuck Ronald Reagan, all of those types of things, the clash, which I get. You know, the Huey and them party grew out of banging with the police. Having that type of constant oppression in your neighborhood with the law, all of that. So it's a natural reaction to be confrontational, to put your fists up and to go to war. But to understand it to a greater detail, to really be revolutionary, you have to stand back and look at where all of these things have come from. And all of those programs and all of those ideas that Huey listed off and why they did this and why they did that, all of those things are African. You put anything else in between? Huh?
Hold on 1 minute, E. 1 minute, and I'm gonna let you get back started. I'm not trying to interrupt you. If I bring you out of the waiting room and I bring you onto the live, what I request you to show.
That was gorilla.
Okay, all right. How you know? All right, I'm gonna bring him back in. We've had some suckers and some local jokers come on the live that came in performing homosexual activities on each other. So I want to make sure I know who we're dealing with. So when I ask to see a video, that don't mean that I'm gonna put you on YouTube, but I just want to make sure I know who we're dealing with. So I'm gonna let the brother back in then, since you know who that is, War. You let me bring them homosexuals in a while ago. I gotta be careful. My bad, E. My bad, E. Go ahead.
It's gonna be kind of hard coming in behind you. Let the homosexuals in, but I'll do my best to get back on track. No, but I mean, the idea is, again, if I wasn't, I don't know, call it what you want. I don't really care. I know I put in the work. I knew I understood the ideology at the time enough to know and understand and accept the responsibility of rewriting the ideology for the New Black Panther Party, so it reflected more of what we were going through and what we thought and what we were learning at the time. Yeah. So whether I wasn't or wasn't, I let the emotional of this world have that conversation. In the meantime, like I've said in the past, my resume is my resume. Do with it what you want. But yeah, those things that they were talking about were African, and it's difficult. I get it, but at the same, I can't empathize when people can't make that connection. You know, when we see these things and we hold them up side by side, this is what we've done in this country to attempt to survive. This is what we've always done. Look, they're the same, whether it's music, whether it's hair, whether it's clothes, whatever the interpretation, it always reflects Africa. And the only thing standing between us and it is the bones and the noses and the ooga booga eating white people in a big black pot boiling over a fire that we've all been taught to visualize about Africa. You know, get rid of that, and it's an easy segue from one to another. Black nationalism, Pan-African, it's an outgrowth. It's a starting point. You start in your local and you begin to see the universe, and you take these steps through the process and see the universe and see it from a totally different paradigm. But yeah, I mean, Huey and them, I don't have a problem with their ideology. It reflected where they were. But as far as whether or not I was a Panther, forget you. I don't care what you say.
All right. Now, you know, I know you was a Panther brother.
Wait. I'll take your wackest rhymes and make them bad. Who
the hell is that?
Come on, man, step into the world. God,
now,
man, you heard me with that.
ARS.
Oh, my bad. Hey, man, I ain't heard it. Man, I ain't heard it in 30 years.
And it should have stuck with you.
Yeah, but okay. Now I want to ask you this. I want to ask this since you said that. And I was being antagonist. I gotta be the antagonist since I'm the one they gotta mediate. Answer me this. So where is the disconnect then? You say that they just didn't see or they couldn't make the connection that they were basically acting out African principles, that they were just being who they were, and they was tying it into the best ideology they could find at the time. Why weren't they able to see their connection? in your view, in your opinion?
Because the guard was up. We were taught to be, our nature is to embrace every damn thing. America has taught us to do the opposite and reject every damn thing, especially things that look like us. And so, I mean, it's an easy ride when you have a master manipulator building off of divide and conquer tactics to get black folks like black folk today. I ain't no African, all of that type. We've all heard it before, to cleave us off from our roots. And so it's just was it point number 5? We want an education that exposes the blah, 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 all of that shit there. They suffered from not having that education. So they couldn't put that education into effect, much less use it, because they weren't even aware of what it was they were actually asking for. It's not enough to say Abraham Lincoln was a racist who this Peckerwood that thought that you were less than human. It's not enough to say that George Washington raped black women, that Thomas Jefferson raped black women. It's not enough to say that. You have to act on it. You have to build on it and step back and reject it. IDing it is not rejecting it. Not rejecting it is not necessarily, or rejecting it is not necessarily revolutionary. You can kick back and say, oh, this is negative, this is bad, but at some point you have to find a replacement for it. If you don't think that the founding fathers were heroes, okay, well, who are your heroes? Who is it you do look up to? If you have nothing to replace that, you're just left in a void. So that's essentially what happens to it. We don't have anything to replace what's there, even if we do reject the norms and all of that. So they just didn't know. They were victims of what it was they were asking to get rid of, like all of us. Ain't none of us just wake up one day and make the connection. Come on. I've been waiting for this cat. I've been waiting for this cat. Because I'm gonna tell you now, I'm gonna be the Joker. You could be Batman. You my arch nemesis. Let's go.
No, it was what you were making some good points. But
come on.
However, I guess it's a however. I like to know because we look at, because we have to talk about cultural nationalism. What was it that Huey was actually addressing? Like what you're addressing now is contemporary, but what was the cultural nationalism of Huey's time? What were the cultural nationalists or the Africanists doing? What was that movement doing? I think one of the most renowned organizations at that particular time was the United Slave Organization, under the brother.
Hold on, E, let the brother make the point. I see you want to jump in. Go ahead, brother.
So it was a matter of, just what were the cultural nationalists doing? Now, I agree with what you're saying, everything you're saying, like, as far as communism being communalism, Eurocentric, communalism, how they've taken our principles and things of that nature. I totally agree. I think even we've said before, J. Edgar Hoover would agree with that. He even made note of that. I think that it's recorded, it was mentioned. He even said that communism was just primitive African communalism. But with that being said, my disagreement with Huey now was the Marxist-Leninist line. However, as opposed to everything else out there at the time, they were tackling our struggle, not just from a political standpoint, but also from that social standpoint. And you don't find really many organizations going that hard. And yeah, it was very revolution because revolution was at the time. And like Huey said, when he looked around and seen these revolutions succeeding in these countries, they were led by revolutionary nationalist organizations that belonged to a larger Pan-Africanist body, but the action that was going down in their locale was nationalist actions. So I think that the call to action was needed. And in my conclusion, or that's what Huey was going for, a larger call of action to spur and stir. But in my conclusion, to say all that, man, I had so much, I was trying to write it down. That not everybody, totally agreed with the alienization of, or the complete alienization of African culture. henceforth you see in the fractionalization of the Third Development Black Panther Party in New York, you find a lot of them went with Africa, Matula, Lumumba, Sada, Sundiata, so on and so on. You see the African culturalization. That's largely what I came up under the East Coast influence of the Panthers. So not everybody just wholeheartedly rejected it. It was just a matter of cultural nationalism or Africanism being the guiding philosophy of the unification and movement of the revolution. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add to. So if you could show me a group back then that was kicking ass, like them, that were Africanists or cultural nationalists, you know, I'd be more inclined to say, yeah, I see where he's coming from on some of these points.
Now, let me say this before you jump back in, E. I know you're ready. I wanted to just add this one point, and it's something that War said last week on the video we did, that one of the things that, and Chairman Younger just talked about it, is that you see that fraction between quote unquote revolutionary nationalists and cultural nationalists real big on the West Coast, where you don't see that fraction as big on the East Coast. On the East Coast, they was more grounded in that African culture with the revolutionary ideologies being what led and spearheaded the organization. But then you don't see that same thing on the West Coast. And it's ironic because if you look on the East Coast, you could see a lot of those cultural type organizations coming out of that part of the country. I mean, you got everything from things like what I know that the Nation of Islam came out of Chicago, but it was big in the East Coast, especially in New York, Harlem. Mm-hmm. You have the Black Hebrew Israelites. You have so many organizations that had that cultural grounding coming out of the East Coast, where you didn't necessarily have that coming out of the West Coast. And something else that's ironic when you think about it, when you look at it, even when you look at gang culture, street tribe culture, and you look at the difference between how they move on the West Coast and how they moved on the East Coast, you always found that culture there. But go ahead, brother. I didn't want to make that point. Sometimes I just come in. I'm gonna let y'all do most of the talking. I'm just coming in on certain points that I think that y'all make that I think that need to be pointed out and highlighted. But go ahead, E.
So I would say that regardless if it was East Coast or West Coast, when I say Huey and them, I'm referencing the entire era, not East or West, not, you know, the cats in California specifically as Huey. I'm talking about that entire construct, the Panther Party during that period of time. Like the brother said, there were a lot of nationalist, cultural nationalist organizations and whatnot in the area doing this, doing that. But the reality of it is none of them, including the party, had the answer. They had pieces of the answer. They had parts of the answer. You know, when cats talk about we're the ideological heirs of Malcolm X, we're going in the streets to stand up to the pigs. Then other cats say we're the ideological heirs of Malcolm X, and they go sit down with some books and wear dashikis and whatnot, have conversations or you know, vote or whatever they do. The reality of it is again, whenever an ideology breaks off that particular, or you say you had this big piece of ideology, a piece of it goes this way, somebody goes that way. Each of those think that they have the ideology. They think that they've got the answer the way it's supposed to be. In reality, just like so much else, so esoteric in this, is that these cats have a piece, these cats have a piece, and in order for it to really do anything, it has to come back together. It's the same thing with religion. Your Christians think they completely right. Muslims think they completely right. Jews think they each have a piece of the puzzle. You put it back, i.e. go back far enough before it got fractured, then you start to see, oh, they are supposed, oh, this is what it was talking about. And there are countless lectures where people have broken down the particular nature of those different religions, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and their particular expression of the more ancient, the fuller ancient texts that they all pulled out of. So the party and its ideology, the United Slaves, or whoever else was going on that pulled out of this ideology of revolution, each had a piece of it. But by our nature and by our training, we've been taught to reject, in large part because of the cult of personality, because we didn't like Maulana Karenga because of the way he walked. We didn't like Huey because of the type of shotgun he had. Whatever bullshit excuse it was, we used it to rationalize and justify and tag all this other bullshit on rather than listening to them. The same way that folks do with Trump. Trump, when I quoted earlier, when they were talking about the whole removing statues and whatnot, you know, you can't take down the statue of General Sherman because blah, blah, blah. Trump hit it the fuck. I don't give a fuck what you think about him. Get out of the cult of personality. This dude stood in front of an audience and said, okay, will you take down Sherman? What about George Washington? Wasn't he a slave owner? He owned slaves? How about Thomas Jefferson? He was a major slave owner. So if you take down Sherman, you got to take down these cats too. What are you going to do? And it was a valid fucking point, but nobody heard it because they caught up in some pieced together sound bites that the media did. It's the same shit. We get caught up in tunnel vision. The party is this because the party bang hard. Why? Because the party is banging hard in the streets. I know cats that bang hard in college, in classrooms, that sit down and have the theoretical dissertations and interactions that folks have to have. You know, Huey and them learned from cats who wasn't in the street protesting. They read books by cats who had never picked up a 12 gauge. So we have to unite both of that mind and that foot and bring them back together. And if we can get over the personality and, well, this organization wasn't doing that or that person wasn't doing that, so it's whatever, and realize that maybe so, but I can't get trapped up in the cult of, oh, a daishiki, you wear a daishiki, this, and I mean, there's just this uppityness of, you know, I've got a black leather jacket on, so I'm harder than you. Well, I've got a daishiki on, so I'm more African than you. That's all bullshit. I haven't worn a daishiki war. Y'all know I've you've rarely ever seen me in a daishiki or any type of print from the continent. Rarely, but I won't shut up about Africa. I've been in a beret a lot more than I've ever put on a kofi or a daishiki or any of that. So like I said, the reality of it is we keep taking bits and pieces of everything. It all goes together. You know, again, culture is not a daishiki. It's not, you know, the hat. It's not the hair. It's not none of it. It's like hip hop. Hip hop is not rap. Hip hop is not dancing. Hip hop is not the graffiti and all. It's none of that. It's what all of those things are trying to get to you. What it's trying to get across to you is the idea and the feel and the glide and the stride that we carry with us. But we keep getting caught up in what we see because we've been reduced to our five senses and aren't able to connect with one another beyond that. And so we get caught up in what white folks say, here, this is revolutionary. Read it because it's Marx and we don't like it. So it must be revolutionary. It must be, you know, it's a slap in our face. And it may well be. I got no problem with Chairman Mao. I got no problem with Marx. Marx gave the best breakdown of the evils of capitalism ever. He's the standard for understanding capitalism if you really want to understand it. So I got no problem with Marx. But the reality of it is, it's that fifth ideology, the one we can't talk about, the one that brings the first four together and in alignment and makes it so that we can move like a gorilla ideologically. If I need to be a Pan-Africanist today, that's what I'm going to do to move the people forward. If next week I got to be an African-centered, you know, black nationalist, that's what I'm going to do. If I got to get in the street with a 12 gauge and walk with the masses of the people and liberate us and take some heads while I'm at it, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not tied to any one of these ideas. I'm not crystallized in any of this shit. You'll never trap me like that. You know, Malcolm said, you can't hurt me with that stick. You can't hurt me with an ideological stick because I'm going to glide and move over to some other ideology that empowers us to do what we got to do. So it's just that we are so stuck in the crystallization. And when I say crystallization of ideology, Malcolm, all of these ideas that Malcolm professed and put out and orated and all of this weren't his ideas. He got all of that from someplace else, but he mouthed them in a way that touched people. So we have to be willing to do that, to put Malcolm to the side and critique Malcolm and say, Malcolm, you fucked up. It took me a long time to acknowledge, Malcolm, you fucked up. I wouldn't have said, I don't know if I'd have said anything about Elijah, but I really wish you had. It took me a long time just to say that little bit because I had Malcolm up there like that. But the reality of it is, it ain't about the party. I mean, y'all might get mad at me. You might not, whatever. Fuck the party. It ain't about the party. It's about the people, you know? So we have to step above and beyond and out of that. And that's why I try to remind people, Huey died a crackhead. It is what it is, you know? So the people, was it Hampton? You can kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill revolution. The ideology is the revolution because it keeps changing. Ideology keeps growing every day to day to day. So damn the revolutionary, we're expendable. It's the ideology and the culture. And again, culture is not what you see. Culture is actually what you get. Culture is what you do from day to day. Culture is what you live. You know, it's just like your religion. Your religion ain't saying amen. Your religion is you out at the club till 3 or 4 in the morning on Saturday, and then down at the church, you praying for forgiveness on Sunday. That's your religion. We see you. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's got nothing to do with what it is you profess. It's what you do. It's the steps that you take. So, yeah, I mean, it's not, for me, it's never been, well, I say never, for a long time, it hasn't been about the individual or the organization or anything I can see, feel, smell, taste, touch, none of that. It's not about that. It's about the masses of the people and the ideologies and the how-tos that are going to get us where we need to go. And if that means if we found out tomorrow everything that Huey said was wrong, we have to be willing. What is that? In that movie Heat, never allow yourself to become attached to anything that you are not willing to walk away from in 60 seconds flat when you feel the heat coming from around the corner. Ain't that what he said, Syke? You have to be in that mindset when it comes to ideologies and people. You have to be able to walk away from them. Figure them out. What we need to do, move the fuck on. Because we will, and when we talk about people getting left behind and left in the dust, that includes us. Masses of the people may take it a different direction come tomorrow, and all 4 of us are out the door. Like, we don't need y'all no more. Get on. And that's the time we slip into the darkness and go on about our lives. I guess. Hello?
Yeah, we heard everything you said. We heard everything you said, brother. Now you always bring up this Huey was a crackhead thing. What's up?
Huh?
I said you always bring up this Huey was a crackhead thing. What's going on with that?
Well, you just got to remind. I mean, we've got to be reminded because we all suffer from the Messiah complex. We either believe we're the Messiah or we're looking for the Messiah. And so we have to remind ourselves. I remind myself of certain things every day. You know, I told years ago, I play mind games with myself to help keep myself in check. And that's one of those things that I have to remind myself, you know, and I use it to try to shatter other people's foundations about it, because if it's built on Huey, then we need, you know, something needs to be done, because it's not about Huey. It's not about Jesus. It's not about Malcolm. You know, and that's why I remind myself about, you know, Malcolm, you shouldn't have did that. I don't know if I'd have said, so that I can remind myself that this is just a man. I don't care what he said, what he did, how he acted. Huey was just a man, no more than that. Even though he came out standing on the top of the car, waving his shirt around, had his big pimp afro, living up in the condo, the penthouse condo for a while, he was just a man.
True indeed. When we look at Huey, you know, and when I first joined the party, back when we were first starting, I had a problem with Huey being a crackhead, dying a drug addict. I had a serious problem with that. And I didn't have a lot of respect for Huey then. I didn't gain my respect for Huey until I was incarcerated, and I was doing a lot of studying of Huey. And I started to understand the ideology. He was the political theoretician of the party at that time. And if you read many of the things that came from it, even Fred Hampton, you know, all of these brothers, they constantly talk, even Bobby Seale, all of them. Bobby Seale would say that Huey brought the ideology, but Huey brought it he's actually more, as far as the thinking go, more like Huey. He brought it in a college type manner. And Bobby said that the way Huey brought it wouldn't make sense to the average dude on the streets. So he would take what Huey said and then to get out on the streets and then express that in a way that the average dude in the streets could grasp it, could understand it. But as I read Huey and when I was incarcerated, as I read Huey, I started to realize what they called at the time the genius of Huey P Newton. I started to understand it. It started to make sense. Now, all of us, and I'm going to get to a point, because I agree 100% with you on Malcolm, on Huey, on everybody. They're all just people. And every human being, I believe, has a duty, a purpose that they have to go into themselves and find and then manifest that purpose on the planet. And if they do that job well, then that purpose will inspire other people. You know, So to get back to the point that I'm trying to make with Huey, I know all of us, probably one of the most electrifying things about Huey was how bold he was in standing up to the police. When they first started those Panther patrols, and how Huey would boldly stand in front of the police with a loaded shotgun and express California law and didn't back down from that. He was willing to buck the police. You know what I'm saying? He was willing to do that. And that's what made Huey catapult to that international figure, because of that boldness. And a lot of times that's what we admire when we see our ideal of manhood being expressed in another human being. We admire that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm making this point because I'm finna go to this drug addict thing about Huey. And you're right. We do need to understand this. But I'm gonna make a point, and then I want some of you brothers to speak on it after I read it. I'm gonna read this from this book. It's another one. If you look at it, if you look at the book Ragley, for y'all that don't know, you can't see it because of my background. But my book is kind of ragged. This is Huey, Spirit of the Panther by David Hilliard. That's what this is. And in the book, there's a point where David Hilliard, he tells a story about Huey and a time that he got ashamed. But here it is. Now you remember Huey, we had a lot of respect for Huey because he was not afraid of the police. He did not back down. And now here's the story. This David Hilliard, he say, one night toward the end, Huey came to my house banging on the door. Let me in, let me in. Who is it? It's me, let me in. Huey was running and he had only one shoe on. What are you running from? The cops after me. My mind warped. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. Huey Newton running from the cops? The police are chasing me. Let me in, they're after me. I felt dishonored and disgraced. Huey Newton running from the cops. They're chasing him. He's on drugs. He's hiding. My own personal drug addiction, living on the streets with a total loss of self-respect with no place else to go. By reaching bottom, I finally made it to a drug program. And by the grace of God, I lived, and I'm here to tell the story. That's what saved my life. He said what saved his life was the day that he saw Huey P Newton running from the police. And if you look at it, now I'm gonna ask y'all, because I got my own idea of what this means. But when Huey was active Black Panther Party Minister of Defense, he would put on his all black, grab his shotgun, hit the streets, he would buck the law. And when the law well, boy, is that gun loaded? He chamber that boy and say, well, I'm gonna tell you it wasn't, but it is now. And he was bold with it. What happened to that Huey that made him run from the police with one shoe and bang on David Hilliard's door? The police after me. And David Hilliard said he felt dishonored when he saw that, disgraced. And that's what saved his life. That's what made him decide to get off drugs. But what happened? What transition took place between the original Huey with the shotgun and the Huey with one shoe banging on David Hilliard's door? Anybody? Ward, don't jump over each other. Ward, Sherman Ganger, Minister of Information E, anybody?
Bad.
What'd you say, you passed?
No.
Can y'all hear me? I might have a.
Who was that? Was that War?
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah. Hopefully I don't have a back. But basically, I want to speak on this because this more or less relates to something I grew up with. See, my father raised me as a critical thinker.
Yep, so much.
Oh, brother.
He raised me also to be. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you in and out.
My bad. So I was saying that my father raised me to be pro-black, and my father was living and battling with crack cocaine. See, when he passed, he was a attempting recovering crack addict, and so I grew up in a household to where my father raised me to be a critical thinker. He raised me to recognize the flaws of the system, but at the same time suffering from a chemical addiction itself, suffering as a Vietnam vet from the fact that he was dealing with PTSD and life was beating him up, but that did not change his core philosophy about what needs to happen in terms of the world. It did not change his philosophy in terms of what he recognized was wrong with this world, what's wrong with America, what's wrong with oppression, and how we being oppressed. So I would say what we have to recognize with Huey is we're dealing with psychological warfare, and we're dealing with life beating them up, and we're dealing with somebody that was put on a pedestal and had to live up to this image all day, every day, all the time, in addition to trying to have a personal life. So you have to recognize how easy it is to actually go down a path of self-destruction, especially when you're in a situation where you're facing everything you're facing and then get hit with a chemical addiction or chemical substance. Not everybody can come back the same way from that. That don't change, in essence, how they think and how they are. But what you saw with David Hilliard is you saw a reflection. He saw the things that was destroying him. And a lot of times it takes somebody else going through the same thing you're going through, but being able to see them in their weakest moment to recognize you in your weakest moment. And that's some of the same stuff I saw with my father, who actually prevented me by seeing that kind of stuff from ever heading down that path. That's why to this day, I don't drink alcohol. I never pick up any cigarettes, no drugs, none of that stuff. So from that standpoint, it was seeing that, but at the same time, recognizing the powerful mind that was still intact to some degree in between those personal triumphs and tribulations that we were going through. And so I just at least wanted to make that point. We have to recognize that we all are living a life. We have to recognize there's been plenty of powerful Panthers who remain powerful as much as they could, but still battle with chemical addictions. But that don't change who they were.
You know what? I like what E did a little earlier when he was, saying the thing about Malcolm, bringing up the whole addiction about Huey, getting us to divorce when he spoke on the Masonic complex. Either we think we the Messiah or we're waiting on the Messiah. And I don't know, I used to always say, we're the only people. I'm no longer gonna say that because I don't know what other people do. But I know what we have, in my opinion, a bad tendency of doing is not being able, especially when it comes to revolution or theory, being able to separate a person's personal life from their brilliance. Marx had his quirks and his whatever little things going on in his personal life. Yet Lenin was able to take that fundamental cornerstone and stage a revolution. You know what I'm saying? Along with Trotsky, and then they keep building on this. Stalin took it, and yada, yada, yada. I agree with like Syke was saying, when I came into the brilliance of Huey, once people get to the point of divorcing his personal with his brilliance, you will see that, and if you go back, you will hear me being a big advocate and proponent of this. I'm saying that Huey, as far as revolution is concerned for the Black nationalists in America, is like a Marx, is a cornerstone, is to be built on. Why reinvent the wheel? I mean, a man he was in a time of revolution. He's taking the lumpen understanding from Fanon, factoring in the violence factor, Mao, these very serious theories. It was at the time, we're coming off of Cuba doing their thing. So for us not to use him or look at him as a serious tactician or theorist as far as Black revolutionary ideology and systems and strategies that could that could and should be used as a cornerstone, in my opinion, not just a main ingredient, the ingredient to further our theory, man, I feel like it's just a waste of a revolutionary. When people allow those things to keep him away from his assessment of our participation in internationalism and revolution, you know what I'm saying, and being able to utilize the real-time experiences that those revolutionaries had based on that, I think is just, man, it really would, if a so-called revolutionary came to me and used that for not using Huey and I wouldn't even take them serious. I would want to know who that revolutionary guru is. I'd be like, shame on who's ever teaching you. Really, I wouldn't even take a so-called internationalist serious if he came with that type of understanding, he or she. Yeah. I
think it reminding people of the issues that these people we put on pedestals have, it's kind of, you know, it's like you gave us an example of cats in the penitentiary, or my bad, when you was on vacation that you came across, when you would sometimes
that stick does not hurt me, E. I spent from 2001 to 2018 calendar in prison. I have no problem with that.
All right. But the way you obviously used it, and we would attempt to use it, and I think the way, one of the best applications of it is when cats who've only heard little bits and pieces around the way about Malcolm this and Malcolm that, when they read it and see, oh, this dude was a pimp, this dude was a hustler, this dude was just a straight up nigga. And to see him go from that to this is motivational. It's because it's a connection, because it connects my reality of, yeah, I'm in here because I was doing that same shit, connects it to the possibilities. In a reverse kind of way, reminding or pointing out to folks that these revolutionary guys that we put on pedestals and whatnot, that they were human, again, gives us that connection. It drops the God down to the earth. It brings them to a level where, oh, I can be like that. So he fell off too. So he's not this unreachable, this mind state is not this unreachable something that's out there. It's actually something that's right here next to me that I can obtain. So again, bringing us out of, out of the culture of personality. Again, my concern is not even just, I could care less about the whole dynamic of the specific Huey thing. My understanding or my focus is on the bigger concept of the cult of personality, simply because those of us who deal with the movement, that Huey thing and all of that, whatever addiction whoever had, is something that's kind of personal to us, because those are our rock stars. Those are the cats that we look up to. But to the average cat, whether they're in the street or in the boardroom, it doesn't hit the same way. But they're still caught up in the cult of personality, because some of them voted for Trump, some of them voted for Biden, not because one had a better plan for policies to make our lives better, but because of the personality. I hate Trump, I gotta vote for somebody else. You don't know Trump. You know what you've been told on the media, but you don't know Trump. You don't know Biden, but yet you're gonna vote for him. Obama is a perfect example. People voted for Obama because this motherfucker smoked Newports and played basketball. They couldn't name a single policy that he had enacted in his first 4 years that helped us. They couldn't, name they weren't even aware of the 7 countries he dropped 17,000 bombs on in his last year of presidency, or the fact that he expanded the NSA and made it even easier for them to watch every fucking thing you do. But motherfuckers will run out and vote for him because Obama, he looked a little bit like Malcolm and he talked good, whatever. So it's not the Huey thing. That's for us specifically. On a bigger and larger scale, it's all of us, because we all get caught up in that cult of personality. Cats get caught up in the cult of war's personality. Don't take my word for it. I've seen it. It's just the way it is. Like I said, we're all either trying to be the Messiah or we're looking for the Messiah. So there's that dynamic that constantly goes on, that I think that we have to be aware of, whether we're assessing Huey or Biden with his non-speech giving ass. These guys are bad guys. Yeah. Y'all elected his ass. I ain't have nothing to do with it. Y'all, I wasn't even playing in the game. I was down the street, somebody else had. Y'all elected this fool. I got back, and now we got high gas. So what else?
Now we got high gas.
High gas.
I'm gonna tell you how I used to use Huey in the Gulag. I'm gonna tell you how I used to use him, because like I said, I started really studying Huey real deep, and I started realizing how powerful his ideologies, his theories were. And you could tell he was a student. He read a lot, and if you were an avid reader, you will see that a lot of the stuff that Huey expressed to the party was basically just the stuff that he read. It was basically the stuff that he got. Like, for instance, give you an example. He got an essay where he said a functional definition of politics, and he said that politics is war without bloodshed, and war is politics with bloodshed. And he go to breaking down and explaining what he means by that. What he's saying is that whenever the people need or want something from the society, the people first engage in diplomacy. And that's what we call politics. And then once the people got tired or exhausted and engaging in diplomacy and they still haven't got what they wanted, then the people take that action to a more action-oriented steps. Usually it'll cause bloodshed, and then we call that war, but it's still politics. So politics is war without bloodshed, and war politics with bloodshed. This is what's his name? The Prussian general that wrote on war. What's his name? Karl von Clausewitz, I think that's his name. But that's who that was. Huey was quoting von Clausewitz. That's who he was quoting. So Huey was an avid reader when it came to studying strategy and political theory and things of this nature. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna read something else. I told y'all this is one of my favorite Panther books right here. If y'all never read one that's better than this one, you gotta tell me what it is. But I'm gonna read this. This is from this Fred Hampton. This is a speech Fred Hampton gave. And he said this. He said, and I'm gonna make my point after I read this. He said, it was Huey P Newton who taught us how the people learn. You learn by participation. When Huey P Newton started out, what did he do? He got a gun and he got Bobby, and Bobby got a gun. They had a problem in the community because people were being run over. Kids were being run over at a certain intersection. What did the people do? The people went down to the government to redress their grievances, and the government told them to go to hell. We are not going to put no stoplights down until we see fit. What did Huey P Newton do? Did he go out and tell the people about the laws and write letters and try to propagandize them all the time? No. Some of that's good, but the mass of the people don't read. That's what I heard Huey say. They learn through observation and participation. Did he just say this? No. So what did he do? He got him a shotgun. He got Bobby and he got him a hammer, and he went down to the corner. He gave Bobby the shotgun and he told him, if any pig motherfuckers come up, blow his motherfucking brains out. What did he do? He went to the corner and nailed up a stop sign. No more accidents, no more trouble. And then he went back. Another situation like that. What did the people do? They looked at it. They observed. They didn't get a chance to participate in it that time, but next time they did. Some kind of problem came up. The people got their shotguns, got their 9mm, got their hammers. How did they learn? They learned by observation and participation. They learned one thing. When there's a fire, you got around the fire. Huey got a shotgun and everybody got it around him and Bobby. They saw that what was going on and they had a chance to participate in it. As the vanguard leader, he taught the people about the power structure. He led the people down the correct road of revolution. What are we doing? Now, I read that from Fred because one of the things, like you just talked about, when we look at Malcolm, we see a story of redemption. We see this ex-drug addict, this ex-pimp, this ex-criminal, this guy that went to prison, charged with 13 burglaries and this and that, become Malcolm X. So that's a story of redemption. We look at Huey and we kind of see the opposite. But what we see in Huey, I believe, is we can see what will happen if we're not aware of, because in the book Revolutionary Suicide, Huey talks about reactionary suicide. He makes a difference. He makes an example of the difference between revolutionary suicide, which is a suicide essentially, and I'm going to paraphrase it and I'm gonna make it simple, more simple than he actually explained it in the book. But revolutionary suicide, he essentially said it was this. We got somebody in the waiting room. You got to wait a minute, Jack D. You know Jack D. War? But he essentially said that this was revolutionary suicide. I'll let him in a minute. He said that this was revolutionary suicide, that you want to be free. And you know that trying to get free is going to get you killed. But you love freedom so much that even though you know that trying to get yourself free and trying to get your people free is going to get you killed, you go ahead and try to get free anyway. He say, this is a person who commits suicide, not because they're depressed or not because they're unhappy, but because they're unwilling to live without freedom. So they commit revolutionary suicide. Then he say the reactionary suicide is a response to your oppression, and you respond negatively by, oh, I give up, oh, I'll never be free. You jump off a bridge, or you bang your veins with dope, or you blow your own brains out. That's reactionary suicide. So Huey is a perfect example of somebody who had the intelligence to recognize the differences between the reactionary suicide and the revolutionary suicide, but still, because of the pressures of his day, as Ward just explained, fell down that road of reactionary suicide. That reaction to the things that were going on in his environment is what ended up getting him murdered. Because he didn't die of a drug overdose. Huey died going to the block. Huey was knife with his hands. And Huey died going to the block, basically robbing drug dealers. He beat dudes up. And some dudes respected Huey so much, some dudes would just give him some dope. But Huey would go out there, and if you didn't come off your dope, Huey would beat you up and take your dope. And I done seen drug addicts like that. Dudes is real nice. We had one in my hood, in my neighborhood, we called him Hambone. They called him $5 because he'll do any job for $5. You give him $5, he'll motor yard, wash the car, he'll do it all. Walk the dog, anything for $5. But if you try to play this dude like a sucker, this dude would beat you up. He had one of the nicest hand games in my neighborhood, and he was a dope fiend. And Huey was that type of dope fiend. He was that type of guy. And that's what got Huey killed. But I always show that to the brothers, that the brother was brilliant, and the brother's ideologies and his understandings could properly lead us down the proper road of revolution, as Fred Hampton just said. But he allowed himself to fall into the very reactionary suicide that he warned us against in his book, Revolutionary Suicide. And I think that that's a nice point. The guy, he jumped out of the waiting room. I guess he couldn't wait. He didn't want nothing there. But that's the only point I wanted to make on about Huey and about the condition that he would find himself in. Because I mean, hell, I can't think of not one of our great personas, what I'm gonna call them. I can't think of not one of them that didn't have their failing. They didn't have some level, some type of weakness, something that we would frown on. You know, the closest, and I might be a little biased when I say this, the closest I think who came to excellence was Malcolm. And I think that he got there because he had already been the furthest in the hole. He had already been in his hole. And so coming out of the hole that he had already been in, there was nothing for him to look back to and kind of admire. There was nothing that he wanted to look at. And I know you hate the movie, E, but I love this scene in the movie. And I know this probably never happened in real life, but being a writer myself, I understand what the director is trying to tell us in this scene. There is a scene after Malcolm cleaned himself up and he was walking through the streets of Harlem. And you know, you had a prostitute, hey baby, come on, but he didn't even look her way. You had somebody trying to sell him some fake jewelry, he didn't even look his way. You had somebody trying to sell some dope, he didn't even look his way. He just kept walking straight ahead. And what the director is trying to tell us in that scene is that once he got focused on purpose, the stuff on the sidelines could no longer distract him. That's what that scene is telling us. And the reason I say that I know that's what they were trying to tell us because I'm a writer, and in writing, you learn that it's boring as hell trying to describe every scene and what you want the reader to see. When you got to learn how to let them see it in their own mind through what you're writing. And that's what I think they were trying to tell us in that story, in the movie that you hate so much. I love the movie, but in the movie that you hate so much, I think that's what they were trying to tell us. And again, all of our personas failed in some way, form, or fashion. But what we were supposed to do and what we need to do is we got to take the positives, the great ideas that they gave us, and we got to take those ideas and run with it and leave everything weak on the floor. Go ahead.
Let me speak real quick.
Oh, damn.
I beg
you boring. Hurry up. Shit.
To me, Kwame Ture never let me down in terms of from how he rose and how he died. But we need to let Brother Boogaloo speak, and then Taz. Let them jump.
Did they want to say something? All they gotta do is come in. This open mic.
This ain't polite shit.
Yeah, this ain't polite shit. This open mic.
You get in. Now.
I get in there. I gotta take a break. Get in there.
I would disagree with the assessment with the Malcolm thing and all of that. Yeah, I agree with that on point. But this whole taking the ideologies and leaving the rest behind, I don't think that we can do. I think we have to. Someone asked me the other day, which Malcolm is it I would identify more? You know, before prison, in prison, after prison, and all of that, or before he went to Mecca, after he went to Mecca. And I can't do that. I can't take a part of and say, okay, no, I'm taking the totality of it, because again, it makes them human. It reminds me of what I am, so I don't get the big headedness and think that I'm somewhere I'm not. Nah, I look up to Malcolm, and if he fucked up at some point, whether it's before or after, then I'm probably going to, because I ain't half the man he was. Huey messed up, and I ain't half the man he was. So I would take, because even in the downfall or the crystal stair that wasn't there as they started coming along the way, we still have lessons that we can imbibe in ourselves and our children, our community, just from that fall and from that upward movement. So yeah, I mean, we are the philosophy. Malcolm was his philosophy because he lived it. That's the whole church analogy. You know, he lived it. Huey and them lived it. They didn't talk about, yo, we got to stand up to the pigs and then go sit down. They went out in the street and stood up to the pigs. So they lived it. So it's the totality of it, even those things that are, you know, Huey suffered, like Ward said about the mind shit that they were doing to him at the time. That's a part of his experience. That's a part of his ideology. That all of that has to go together. You know, Europeans, they like to pick and choose and say, you know, George Washington was a great man. Oh, but wait, you know, Alexander Hamilton, Andrew Jackson, these were great men. But wait, they were some racist pieces of shit, and I'll never forgive them. So don't try to sell me that. You know, we have to take the wholeness of it and move along with it. And I'm sorry, y'all, but that's kind of like the African way.
My thing is like this, you know, it depends I understand why the white boy does that. George Washington was a great man, and we're the ones saying, but wait, he was a racist piece of shit. They're not saying that. They understand to take him, to judge him according to what their purpose was. Prime point, like, when we say Huey messed up, okay, me personally, I would say that because of who I am, my morals, my ethics. But when we judge him, he wasn't a minister. If we're like, if we judge Malcolm as the Black Muslim, when Elijah Muhammad told him not to speak, I'm kind of like, as a Black Muslim, like, man, you should listen to the grand leader. But as a revolutionary, I understand what he's coming from. You can't contain this type of, so what are you judging by? I say that to say this. Huey, if we're judging Huey according to revolutionary standards, you know, I mean, if we're judging him to ministerial standards, to prophet standards, yeah, he really fumbled the ball. But revolutionary standards as pointing out who the true enemy is, which is the state, making the enemy acquiesce or concede to some of the things. We have to remember that there was no WIC. There was no food stamp. The state didn't give a damn about the people eating, let alone the babies and things like this. So his challenging the state to do what a state should do, which is be responsible to the people, albeit we didn't get the revolution that we wanted completely in full self-determination, but we did make the state have to concede in order to slow down the tide of a people's revolution or people empowerment. So, you know, in concluding, I'm saying if we look at Huey on revolutionary standards, nationally and internationally, you know, to me, that changes the bar, you know, because I'm not looking at him as a civil rights leader. I'm not looking at him as a Malcolm X, as a one-time moral, ethical leader who brought us into this revolutionary political understanding or the need for Black people to empower themselves in every aspect and facet of our existence in America. I'm looking at Huey as a revolutionary nationally and on the scale of international revolution. And I really think that if we do that, it sets the bar different. It puts him really in a different bracket. You know, we have a tendency to place all our leaders on one even keel. I don't care what from our nuclear physicist to our Waffle House chef. You know what I'm saying? We have a tendency to do that. And I think that if we really judge them in the light of what their purpose was, like Syke was saying, that purpose, then, you know, I think we really would be doing them a little more justice.
Well, I think that my issue with that is the idea of judgment. You know, when I talk about Huey and them, what they did and didn't do, and how he was this and Malcolm that, it's not from a moralistic, holier than thou, know your place, you shouldn't do this or that type of, it's not that. There's no judgment. Huey is no lesser a genius, a great man in my eyes because he did or didn't smoke crack. That's some shit that happened. Everybody goes through some things that happen in life. That's the way he dealt with his stuff. It doesn't take away a single iota from anything that he did up to that point, beyond whatever. So there's not this need to, and that's one of the reasons I got away from the nation, because there is this idea of, good, bad, better, and all of that. And that, again, is another thing that places it's part of the Messiah complex. I mean, who am I to judge Huey or judge Malcolm or judge what they did or judge how high up he should be on the pantheon or this or that? None of that exists for me. My homie, Sight, great brain, all of that, he did some shit. He went to the penitentiary. I think no less of him. That's some shit that happened. He got dealt a hand in life. He dealt with it. He moved on. He grew, whatever he did. So there's no, for me, and I think this is something that we carry over from so much of our Christian upbringing, is this desire to find a place for higher and lower. I have to, we have this sensation that we have to have some things up and some things down, that we've been, had thrust upon us. That's just not our nature. That's not how we behave. We are we. When we identify as we and we truly believe that we are we understand that we is no higher than we is no lower than we. There is only we, and it's all of we. When we really accept that and get away from this individual, it's this individual mindset that we have to put somebody up and somebody down. And that's just not, that doesn't bode for, that doesn't vibe with the African sensibilities. We have no need for that. This is all of us. Huey was a nigga, just like the cat that smoked crack his whole life was a nigga to this system. Huey was a god just the way the cat that smoked crack his whole life was a god. It's we. When Malcolm said, we all catch hell for the same reason. If we all catching hell for the same reason, we must not be up any higher than any of the rest of us. So there's never, for us, and War and Sight, neither one of them, I know them. There's none of that in any of what we say for that either. I don't look down on Trump. I don't have a problem with Trump. He's no better. He's no worse. He's this white dude that played his hand. He's got some fucked up shit about him, no doubt. He still said some stuff that was true. I'm sure Biden probably did at some point, but whatever. I'm not going to say anything to support that motherfucker at this point. I just can't do it. But my point is that we feed into that. And again, I think that goes back to this holier than thou, this messianic complex that we have been taught that we have to have, in the sense that we have to be able to pass judgment on some things from an emotional perspective, going back to us not being emotionally, stable people at this point. We let our emotions deal with it. So whatever vibes right, if Malcolm touches us right, oh yeah, Malcolm was great. Or if Huey just says something that makes us kind of feel maybe bad about ourselves, or whatever, oh, I don't like Huey. And we all do that. But if we feed into that and then we build organizations around that, we get what happened in the 60s. We get what happened between Huey and them in the East Coast and the West Coast, and all that was going on because people were building off their emotion. If somebody sent me a letter right now, or an email, or anything, a voice message or a video, where Sykes sitting up there talking about he ain't black because his mama white, and he talking about how he don't use washcloth when he take a shower. He do white shit, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm just making a point. There's no way on earth that I would ever believe that, because I know this is a thinking person, and he's not going to build on that type of shit. So, but when we get wrapped up in our emotions, we start believing all of that nonsense. And like I said, a big part of that is somebody has to be up high, somebody has to be up low. And so we're constantly building off of those emotions, and we have this dialogue, this back and forth, which I know a lot of this tonight is good old fashioned revolutionary fun. So I ain't mad at us or nothing, but yeah, I mean, we have these serious conversations as if it fucking matters. Come on, let's be real, let's be honest. Does it really fucking matter whether Huey smoked crack or not? Not to me. He wrote these books that I can learn and grow from. I don't give a shit. I mean, I hate it for him, but oh well, shit happens. My son committed suicide. Oh well, shit happens. We go through divorces and children go off and all of these types of shit happens. So, but we have to be able to distill what is important, what's really significant, what's going on. If we look at politics, the Supreme Court has made rulings about things. If you ever notice, the things that we really get hyped about are social issues. You know, Kaepernick kneeling on a football field, is that constitutionally protected free speech and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, Biden and them are passing, you know, legislation that actually affects our day in and day out. There's a bill in Rhode Island making it so that if you don't get a vaccination, you have to pay a $50 fine every day that you're not vaccinated, and you have to pay twice the state tax, you know, double the state tax. We're not getting upset about those types of things. We're not getting upset about the shit that actually affects us, monetary policy, and how the war in Ukraine is fucking everybody's pocketbook up, and it'll be way worse by the end of the summer. We're not getting upset about that. We're getting upset because the LBGTQ, whatever alphabet street group is pissed off because, you know, the Chick-fil-A won't serve them at their restaurant, or they boycotting Chick-fil-A because they don't like gay people, or Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. Who gives a fuck? But this is what it's important to us because of the emotion involved. You know, a cat like Bird or Jimi Hendrix or any rapper, you know, has got a drug problem, and we just kind of write that off, no big deal. But if we say Huey had a drug problem, oh, Lord Jesus, oh, he's no good, he's the devil, he ain't shit. All of a sudden it becomes a problem, as if these cats are supposed to be, you know, untouchable and whatnot. But that's the emotion of it. We don't think. So yeah, ain't no judgment. I got nothing but love for Huey. But he was crackhead.
War.
Yeah.
A while ago you said, was it Stokely Carmichael that you said that you never, Kwame Ture, that you said that you never saw, that you said you feel like it was the one that was the most on point, basically, as far as how he started and how he ended.
Yep.
All right. Now I'm coming back to that. I'm gonna come back to that a little bit, because at one point, Kwame Ture and Stokely Carmichael joined the Panther Party. He joined the Black Panther Party under Huey and Bobby at one point. And then he left. They had a split. I think his position was prime minister when he was in the Black Panther Party. He was prime minister, then he left. And he left because they had conflict because of differences of ideology. And he was more on that Pan-Africanist, you know, culturalist type tip. And one of his main problems was that the party at that time did or worked with white organizations. That was one of his biggest issues, because he believed, essentially, because him coming from SNCC and working on that side of the border, so to speak, when it comes to revolutionary organizations and then civil rights organizations, he saw firsthand how the white participants essentially took over all those organizations. The NAACP, the SNCC, the SCLC, I think that's it, Student Christian Leadership, SCLC, and all those organizations that he had traditionally worked with. He saw how the whites came in and basically took over those organizations. And he basically was telling Huey and them that he feared the same thing would happen to the Panther Party. Huey disagreed, because Huey's whole argument was that those organizations was, for the most part, most of them was founded by whites, and they was completely monetized by whites. Whites supported them financially, period. And that the Panther Party never had that issue. Panther Party was founded by blacks, and while whites could support by donating money, they had no say-so in the direction of the organization. That was Huey's argument. And at the end, though, Huey said that essentially Stokely Carmichael was correct, because of the influence that the white hippies had on the party, because that's why the quote unquote free speech, the drugs and all that came into the party through that conduit. That's what Huey said. So I said all that to say this. Since we were talking about Huey and you brought up Stokely Carmichael, what do you think about the direction? Okay, Huey went one direction, Stokely Carmichael went another direction. What do you think about those two different directions that Stokely Carmichael went, Kwame Ture and Huey P Newton went, as far as their ideologies? Because that leads us back to how we started and where E is at and where E has always been, and his ideals of where a revolutionary organization should go. He, and I'm not trying to speak for you, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of put E more on the side of Kwame Ture, of Stokely Carmichael, in his thinking as far as ideology goes. Right, wrong, little bit.
No.
versus
Go ahead. I'm gonna tell him no in a minute. Go ahead.
Oh, War can't talk here.
Okay, this is what I want to say. My wanted to polarize the two. Then basically what you're talking about is, I feel like, this is my opinion, of course. I feel like so the Carmichael.
That's what happened when you're driving around in the mountains in a cube.
Yeah. Well, we can't hear you, Walt.
Ray evolved.
Put his mic off or something till he get out the mountain, get away from the windmills.
From the perspective of what was going on.
Yeah, just I'll text him.
I'm texting him now. I had to mute Walt. We can't hear Walt.
Okay, well, let me tell you no real quick.
Can y'all hear me?
No, go ahead.
What do you do? Unmute himself?
What about? Yeah, I can unmute. Oh. Remember, this is
Yeah.
You need to pull over to the gas station. Pull over to the Shell, the racetrack.
Well, you sounded like Max Headroom. We really can't hear you. You breaking up. Yeah, you sounded.
Now with my video.
What I do? I told my age or something.
I think everybody remember that shit.
But and throwing that out there, remember too, Huey was the last development. Kwame Ture was Panther before Huey.
Right.
Yeah.
So, a lot of that was the radicalization and the route that Huey was taking that led to the disagreements. If you haven't checked out the history of the Black Panther Party, check out my page. Can I do the plug? Is that all right?
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Check out my page, Yang and Krumah. We go through the developments. And I'm glad you said this so I can make sure I recap. I don't even think I finished this off. This is going to go back, man, but I think I'm 1 through 6. But so there's some issues with the direction that Huey began to take as opposed to the other two developments of the Black Panther Party, Lowndes County and New York. So by the time Huey got it from San Francisco in that area, man, Huey was on some different things.
Well, let me say this, since you said what you said there, Syke. My expressions around my home, my daily life, and conversations are very much from, I guess, what on the outset people would consider as easy as being very Pan-Africanist. But the reality of it is, when we talk, I push that a lot because it's such a gap. It's like when, what's his name? Whatever you think of him, I don't care. Remember that. What's his name? The brother with the school, that everybody's questioning what he was collecting money for. Umar.
Umar.
So when Umar put out, I guess he put out the phrase unapologetically African, and it became unapologetically Black. The fact that we can't make that step, you know how I am. I don't go in just a little bit. I'm going to go all the way over to the other side and try to drag as much as I can with me. So my interjection in the conversation is always going to come from that standpoint, as long as African people resist. If everybody tomorrow decided, all these Africans say, you know what, we African, and started just Africa this, Africa that, I'm gonna be finding something new. I'm gonna start pushing something else further along, because now everybody's been caught up to that point. So for me, that's the primary reason I push that. But just like I do, a quick history lesson. If you ever come across, if you're part of any of the Panther iterations that spun off of New Black Panther Party, and have come across the 4 isms, the Black nationalism, Pan-Africanism, African-centered thought, Black liberation theology, and the 5th that we can't talk about, understand that it was through the conversations of the 3 of us over a period of time, bumping heads and disagreeing and agreeing and all of those things that came out of. And the one ideology that we all agreed upon, whether it was said or unsaid, understood or not understood, as we've grown to understand it, is that 5th one, is that one. If you look at all of these issues that we have between organizations and personalities, the Panthers and us and the nation, and oh my God, what is it? What are those cats that are always trying to fight somebody? just real pissed off down in Orlando, yelling at people, Black Hebrew Israelites, whether it's them cats or the Moors, whoever it is. If you look at them, the one thing that they all have in common is that they're all crystallized in a single ideology. And that's something that we've understood. You can't let that shit happen. You can't, that's the way that really movements are destroyed, is because we crystallize, and organizations are destroyed because organization is a crystallization to whatever degree of particular ideologies and whatnot. And so when we put ourselves in that, it makes it real easy for the feds to come in. Because if you're a nationalist, I know exactly how to come at you, because all you've got is nationalist stuff. If you're a Pan-African, I know how to come at you, because that's all the shit you got. And that's the essence of a guerrilla. Che and them knew that. You don't stick to one way. You don't stick to one thing. You make yourself an amoeba. You flow in between these ideologies, because again, it's not the ideology that's important. It's us moving forward. So not sticking it, the Wing Chun and all of them. I always try to get War to show me sticky hands and all of that. Is we get stuck with the sticky hands in one position, holding somebody, not realizing they're coming around the other way with another shot to the side of our head, because we're focused on this one ideology, on this one crystallization of our reality. And we're stuck there, and we can't see everything that's going on behind us, let alone be actually able to move with it, absorb the heat, and move on. We can't take that energy because we're stagnant, we're solid, we're in one spot. So we've got, as revolutionaries, as folks who call ourselves revolutionary, is to get out of being stuck in one. None of us like being stuck in one place. I've heard so many times, I would rather not have a house, but have a car, than have a house and not have a car. Because we got to be able to, that ability to move around is so liberating. Just being able to, and I know that's an exaggeration, whatever, but the idea is being able to move from here to there, to go to the grocery store, go to the movies, go to the mall, go to up the street, drive around, just because, whatever it is, being able to move, we associate with freedom. So when they dropped the chains off of us back in slave days, we thought we was free because now we can move around. But ideologically, we don't move around. Ideologically, we get into the church, and that's where the fuck we stay. We don't realize that we can go talk to the Muslims about the allness of Allah, the beneficence of Allah. Go to the Jews and talk about the oneness of God. Go to the Christians and talk about the forgiveness of God, or whatever it is. These are all different aspects of the same thing, or the same attempt. But we're crystallized. And if you've ever seen the movie The Dark Crystal, that one crystal that broke off and just froze everybody. The good guys on this side, the bad guys on that side, just stuck in that one spot. And it wasn't until they put that crystal back with the main crystal that the unification of the sides came together, and folks were in the movie were actually liberated and free. And so that's what we got to get back. So that's why I push African or an African perspective, whatever you want to call it, Africa all day long, is because it's that resistance. And for me, that's the way I get at it, is punching at that resistance. This is where you're going to resist. This is where I'm going to take you to town. This is where we're going to work. And it just touches me as well. So yeah, but there you go. That's why I said no.
I agree on that. When it comes to organizations, focusing on just one thing, that's one of the things I see with the whole Black Lives Matter movement. Everyone's all focused on police brutality, not paying attention to the fact that we've got so many other issues going on within our communities, with brutality in the community, housing, the fact that, Black people don't know how to create their own businesses. They don't know how to get around the system. I was talking to my mom about it earlier, especially when it comes to a lot of people who want to and can open daycares. You have the system that tells you, okay, well, we can't allow you to open the daycare because they find the smallest things in your home. But that same exact home where they say you can't run a daycare is that also the same home where Section 8 tells you, oh, it's livable. And these are things that people are not focused on. They're all focused on one little thing when it comes to the Black Lives Matter organization. That's why I think that, as you said, when you're dealing with just one ideology, you're going to be stuck, and that's when things are going to go downhill.
Word. Appreciate it, sis. Taz, you muted.
Balagoon. Say something, Balagoon. We're going to kick you out, man.
My bad. War, you can go on and say what you tried to say when we couldn't hear you. I got a few people I'm finna let in, and I'm
Hey, you
gonna
hear
be
me?
I'm gonna be on the trigger because you know we never know who these people are, so I'm gonna be on the trigger just in case I gotta bounce.
Don't
So,
hesitate.
Here I go right here. What's up?
That's Balagoon. Let Balagoon jump in.
So I caught bits and pieces of the conversation. I know we was talking about Messiah Complex and Huey P Newton. So I caught bits and pieces, and I believe Brother Syke was sharing some of the readings that he had, he's been through. The best thing that I can say in terms of the part that I heard is I sort of agree with Brother E in terms of the Messiah complex that people tend to have. And even in their interpersonal relationship, I've seen so many times often that people tend to follow people based upon their titles or their status, things of that nature. And I think more of the collective mindset, we just have to try to abstain from that or get away from that as much as possible. So I sort of agree with that. However, at the same time, I do agree that there are certain examples that individuals have made that could be afforded to be more or less dissected. And I think some of the actions of Huey P. Newton, as well as other people, their actions could be dissected and could follow, but more or less not surrender to their personality. That's what I think. That's where I'm at.
Appreciate it, bro.
Right on.
Where the other folks, Syke? You're muted.
I know I'm finna let them in. I'm scared of them. I'm finna let them in. You know,
Do it.
we had that incident earlier.
Yeah, no doubt.
So let's see. All right, I let a couple in. They ain't saying anything. War, where'd War go?
He's in there.
He still got that bad reception.
So yeah, if you really dissecting the conversations, what's really most, I mean, it's like being on the battlefield. You have to be able to move with the flow of the fight rather than standing your ground and refusing to give up that ground. Sometimes you have to perceivably lose ground in order to gain ground. All of these things are applicable. Things like the 48 laws and the art of war. Those are all ideas that you can apply to maintaining an ideology. That ideology has to be fluid enough, and that's where I would consider myself is the whole guerrilla thing or spirit or whatever you want to call it, is the ability to not be hemmed up, to be aware of, not necessarily try to address everything that's going on, because that's tactically just impossible. You can't do that. But ideologically, you begin to be able to see the value of Dr. King and what it was he was doing, whatever his intentions were. Dr. King slept around, just to keep it as a man. But from a tactical perspective, I wouldn't have done it, didn't do it. Started out on that path, didn't. But ideologically, we have to be at a point where we can find value in all of the ideologies that are around us. So Jacob is gone. Kill him. But
I'm trying to find.
The ability. It's more of a, and I guess maybe that comes from our emotional damage that we've had done over the years. I know people with a whole lot of emotional damage have a difficult time letting go, of detaching, of this sense of abandoning or being abandoned one way or the other. We're not able to move on even when it's not healthy for us to stay where we're at. We continue to stay in that position, even though we're getting beaten up, we're not gaining ground, we're losing ground, all of those types of things. We do the same thing as organizations and as people, individuals within those organizations. We stay with an ideology because we're comfortable with it, because we know it, we think we know it, we understand it, and it's comforting. It makes us feel safe and secure and all of those things. So doing that shadow work for oneself and making it so that we as so-called individuals can move along without this overwhelming sense that we owe something to the idea, or I'm going to be seen as a flake if I go this direction or that direction or whatever. We have to be able to get ourselves and build ourselves and move beyond those emotional attachments. And again, like I said, that those organizations are just reflections of where the people are. Like Mos Def said, you know, people ask me, where's hip hop going to go? Well, hip hop is going to go where the people go. If the people are smoked out, hip hop going to be smoked out. If the people are righteous, hip hop going to be righteous, because it's a reflection of where we are. These organizations, what the organizations do, what they say, all of that is a reflection of us, because they are made up of us. And so if they're not doing something ideologically that they need to be, it's because the masses within the organization are letting it happen for whatever reason, because it makes them feel better as individuals, or because you know, they agree with it, or whatever. The people are allowing it to happen, you know, and that for me is the liberating aspect, is when you start make a decision, you choose to start making movements, to not just react, to not just be stuck, to actually grow beyond what it is you've been programmed to have, to reflect, you know. So yeah, I mean, that's a key masses of the people, but I don't know who that was, but somebody, I don't know, they want to speak, clearing their throat.
Just keep moving.
Yeah, what I'm doing. That's why I ain't been talking. Every time I put them in, they do something silly. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. It makes no sense to me, I guess, because of the way I think, that people will waste their time to get on somebody else's live just to play. You know, if a person is, because I mean, you actually have to come here, actually take the time to get on Zoom, put in the meeting ID and all that, just to come on to play. I just wouldn't waste my time like that. That's something I'm not gonna do. There's many YouTube channels that I 100% don't agree with. I don't watch their channel. I definitely don't go to their lives to play. I don't see the point in that. I don't see how that benefits someone. And you can't disrupt anything, because I can drop you in a heartbeat. As soon as you go to acting stupid, I pull the trigger on you, you're gone. So you're wasting your time. I don't get that. It makes no sense to me. I'd probably drive myself crazy and be dizzy trying to get off the ground, trying to make sense out of somebody doing something like that. It don't make any sense to me.
Well, yeah, absolutely. People don't value time. Time has no value. Time ain't shit. So yeah, I'm gonna entertain myself. It's like watching something on TV. You know, it's all silly. But you know, whatever. Glad we could keep you entertained for like 30 seconds or whatever it was. You're welcome. Make a donation, motherfucker. Subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe to the channel. That's what you need to do. Leave a dislike in the comments.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right. Man, we done pretty much touched everything. I never did get what I wanted out of Brother Ward, but we done pretty much touched everything, unless anybody got something they want to add to the conversation. I was hoping that we would get some bold detractors. Okay, I got a DC Chairwoman, Janie. Let me see who that is. I was hoping we could get some detractors or some critics who basically disagree with the ideology and was intelligent enough, not like the people that we've been having coming in with this plan, but it was intelligent enough to express and articulate their disagreement in a way that would cause us to have to engage in an intelligent debate. But the only people that we getting is people jumping on the live making cow noises. I don't understand that. But
yeah, because that would feel good. Make my brain stretch and whatnot. That would feel great.
That you would have to debate somebody or discuss that issue, you know, and especially if they could come with a point of view that makes all the sense in the world, because we're not stupid. We're not, as E constantly talked about, being crystallized to one ideology. We're not racist. We're not any of those things. We're thinkers. So if somebody 100% disagree with anything that we were saying and putting out and wanted to come on and had the ability to express that disagreement like an intelligent person, we'd give them the floor. But the only people that we getting is people coming in playing games. I don't understand it. I definitely do not get it. I'm feeling less.
We're at a time where people don't even know how to think for themselves or actually read a book. People would rather come on here, play a little game, and feel good about themselves instead of educating themselves and using their mind.
True indeed.
Oh, and speaking, and thank you for what you just said. Black Students Guide to a Positive Education. Either of y'all get a chance to check any of that out yet?
Nope, not yet, because it's
That's I ain't want to talk to y'all no more.
Send me the link.
I sent you the link. I'm not talking to you no more. But we can actually, and I guess if the chairwoman and Taz, since they've been here, we could send them the link to it. But you talk about using your mind, and that's one of the books, along with the Browder File, a long time, like 25 years ago, when I first came in contact with the book, I would start building out of it. And never lend your books out. I don't care what nobody says, never lend your books out. I lent that book out one time 25 years ago, never got it back. And I've been out of print. I've been looking for it. I would see it on eBay for like $200 because they are out of print. Finally found me a copy. If anybody wants to borrow it, don't even talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. War can't borrow it. Site can't borrow it. I'll send you a PDF, but you can't borrow my book no more. But the Black Students Guide to a Positive Education, along with the Browder File, excellent books for ground level building and coming out of the mindset, examining ourselves. And to me, in my head, we don't examine ourselves if for no other reason. And I think for most, the most profound reason, or the biggest reason, is because it's painful. None of us want to hurt. And we have been so taught to live off of what our ego tells us to do, that if it says to break and run, to start swinging because something hurt, not harm, just hurt, that we run away from it. I've known folks who say, I don't like to be psychoanalyzed. I'm pretty sure War and Psych both, and I've never asked y'all this, but I'm gonna say, I think they both enjoy being psychoanalyzed, because there's a certain, I don't know, it's weird about someone poking around in your head, and they flipping over rocks and whatnot, and you're like, oh, yeah, I didn't realize that, but you're right. That sort of shit. We don't, as a people, don't like that, because we don't want our stuff, we don't want rocks in our heads turned over. We don't want somebody uncovering some shit, so I gotta look at it.
Take that one out, Psych.
You
like something intelligent to say. That could have
it was a white guy. He might have had something. He might have had a disagreement to voice.
He had a Batman costume on, man. Come on.
He had what on?
Look like Batman costume.
You be wearing a beret? Let that man wear his costume if he want to be a Cape Crusader. We Panthers. I mean, we walking around on four legs talking about rah. I mean, shit. What's the difference? But nah. We don't. We have to be able to find, and I think we were fortunate to find folks, especially brothers, that had enough sense. We detected enough sincerity, and we're able to get beyond the emotion of it to where we're able to pick each other apart, even just through our ideas, because we used to sit up and beat each other up for hours. I remember one time at my mom and pop's house, war was over, and my oldest son was sitting there. Me and War were going back and forth, debating, what is logic and what is emotion and all of this. And I don't know, War, if you remember, Ty, he was sitting on the stairs just watching us go back and forth like he threw a punch, then he threw a punch, and just watching it go back and forth. So we have to find those spaces, or create those spaces where we can have those around us to pick apart certain things, and to not react to those things as if they're the end of the world, not react off of those emotions, and to listen and to be okay with it. That don't mean don't get upset about it. That just mean don't go ham. Just don't, you'll lose your shit because somebody poked you in a certain way, So yeah, I agree. We don't think, we feel. And when I have conversations, as soon as somebody starts telling me, well, I feel like this, I don't want to hear it. I can listen to you vent or tell me how you feel, and then we can discuss what's going on, but I can't make decisions about my life based on the way you feel. It's just not gonna happen. That's a highway to hell. That's no good. So, we have to get to a point where we can dig into one another and uproot, do the shadow work and pull out these things that are holding us back. Because again, organization ain't gonna be no stronger or more powerful than its membership. It's just not. We've all seen it. It's just not gonna fucking happen. You know, so yeah, I agree with the tag.
Well, I think that guy, he might have been a serious guy. He in the I see he in the chat room on YouTube.
Well, you can try letting Batman in again if you want.
He gone now. You offended him.
What good is the Joker without the Batman?
I could be wrong, but I could have sworn I saw some red and black.
He might have, but he had video, so he might have been serious about it.
Yeah, exactly. They playing, they don't have no video.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So he might have. He gone now. I got another one. I got another one named James Griffin. I'm supposed to let in. Any one of y'all know him?
Yeah,
you know him? All right, I'm gonna let him in. Yeah, I think that other guy might have been the white guy. He might have been sincere because he had a video. Usually, if they come in playing, they don't have no video showing. And I'm looking in the chats. He told another person how to get in the. He had told another person how to get in because they had asked, "What is the link?" And that guy, his name was Will H. He told him, look at the description that because I put the link in the description box. So basically he told another person how to join in. So that's why I say he might have been a sincere guy. See, well, I done told everybody we wasn't racist. You saw a white guy and you say bounce.
I can't lie. First thing came to my head was, kill him. But yeah, I'll take the hit for that. Oops, my bad. If he's still out there, jump back on. If you got something to say, I'll apologize to you face to face because I would have made the same call. But I can't lie. First thing came, after 400 years, what the fuck you expect? Yeah, I got PTSD, goddammit. Every time I see a white boy, pick his head around the corner or something, I'm gonna feel a certain kind of way. That's just the fact. That's just the way I'm gonna say it. You can hush up about it, but I'm gonna say it. I don't give a shit. Matter of fact, that's one of the things with Francis Perez Wilson. Brothers need to get in the room, just brothers, no sisters around, and acknowledge to one another that we're scared to death of white people. We have to acknowledge that. White women in a fucking Central Park can get on the phone and have brothers shitting their pants. It's a black guy, he's here, and I feel threatened. We know we have a problem. So we have to, first step, what is it in Alcoholics Anonymous? It's like I can't hear you. But in Al-Anon, the first step.
Somebody got a lot of background noise.
The first step is to acknowledge that you have a problem. We have to acknowledge that we are scared of white people. That's just, they have all the power. It makes sense that we would fear them. They have all the power, and they've done all the manipulating and all the threatening and all of this for 400 years. 400 years of somebody looking over, we having to look over our shoulder every minute of every day, every minute, not every week, not every day, every minute, because there was somebody trying to murder us because they're not us. And so that's gonna build up. So it just makes sense. My bad, saw a white dude, I freaked the fuck out. I don't know what to tell you. Y'all tell me it ain't never happened to you.
Pick on that, Brother Griff. I know you got something to say about that one.
Kind of update me on what he was really speaking on, sir.
I forgot what the question was now.
It wasn't no question. You just freestyle.
My bad.
I think what we have to acknowledge today is season and time. We understand the past, but we got to understand the time of the present. And so when we look at the opportunity of the day, I think that we must be focused on what we need to do as a people. I myself try to think of nothing other than my community and what needs to be done. I believe that a lot of times we have outdated information that don't apply to today's circumstances and situation, and just a traditional way of operating within the community. And so I think we have to advance our knowledge and our actions with time, be proactive and not reactive. The Honorable Master Teacher, Brother War, always teach cell theory. We all have to think and believe that we are leaders and that we operate up under one purpose and one divine order to liberate the people from systematic injustice and self-destruction. And so that's my take up on it. I try not to pay any attention. I believe to beat our enemy is to take our attention away. And so that's my stance on it, sir. Black Power.
True indeed. True indeed. We appreciate that, brother. That was definitely profound. It was definitely deep. We appreciate you, no doubt about it.
Thanks,
we're gonna get ready to close out in about 4 minutes. Anybody else got something they want to add to the conversation before we close out?
DC, you gonna come on and say something? DC Chairwoman? All right, well.
All right, I appreciate it.
Okay, I'm back.
Go ahead, sis.
Okay, I'm reconnecting. Hello, gentlemen. How y'all doing?
Hey,
This
sis.
is the DC Chairwoman, former DC Chairwoman. So speaking on behalf of the DC chapter here, we do a lot in the last year, a whole lot. I kind of fell back on being in the front ground and really playing the background and actually getting a lot more work done in the background of the revolutionary movement. Here in DC, we have a free food, free clothing, free shoe program. And once I started just focusing on my community and the people's needs around me, the revolution made a lot more sense to me. It makes sense for, young men, Wilson. I was boots on the ground. My chapter was boots on the ground for both of these young Black men that got killed in the streets of Washington, D.C. And, the people are just still saying, where were you guys? Why weren't you doing the street patrols? Why weren't you, more active? I tell them we had so much drama going on that we couldn't even focus on our city. I couldn't recruit people because it's like, how do you bring them into a burning house? You know what I'm saying? And things is falling apart. And I'm trying to shield my DC residents from all stuff that was going on a national level, to keep us focused on what was going on right here in DC. So at the end of the day, I'm down to a couple troops, but we just doing the work. You know what I'm saying? We just putting in the work. I feed people here in DC every day. Feed them, clothe them, house them if I have to. I just learned how to just work on a grassroots level. Everything I learned in the Panther Party was to become a better Panther. You know what I'm saying? Not to make the party look good, but to make my community look good. You know what I'm saying? So, I've read all the books. So I know all the people. I see what's happening. But in reality, none of that makes sense. It don't make a difference if you the only one reading the book, but you ain't doing nothing about it. You're not responding to the needs of the people. You trying to get in a photo opportunity. You want to be seen or something like that. So my revolutionary struggle was always trying to make sure that my integrity was intact and that what I'm doing is going to make a difference. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need right now results. DC don't need nobody to be a reactionary revolutionary. You know what I'm saying? We need to have programs in place. And that's why if any title I would ever take in the revolution was a community program developer. I wanted to be the one to travel across the country and help people set up their farm to table programs. You want to go and not respond when a cop shoots somebody. Let the renegades go do that. But we need to be building our own communities. We could have Black Wall Streets all over the United States if we just got with the people that are actually doing the work and using the fundamentals that we have been taught as Panthers. I'm one of the Panthers that would show up with a manual. You understand? I had my manual at the manual training. Nobody else did. So I'm like, so what are they doing? Are we just going on field trips you know what I'm saying? Are we just going out just to do what? Are we leaving Panthers everywhere we go? Are we making an imprint on the lives of our children? That's my problem with it. That's why I had to step back and fall back from everybody, because It don't make a difference out here screaming Black Power if you're not gonna empower somebody. If you're not gonna leave a Panther where you going. Like we traveled to Elizabeth City, North Carolina, and I'm only bringing this up because it's been a year to the day that it actually happened when we were down there when they killed the guy that was in his driveway trying to get away. Long story short, we went down there to Elizabeth City, North Carolina, the DC chapter, and we established a bond with the community, with the people. We had a community family day, like come out free barbecue. We wanted to talk to them and we wanted to see what it is can we do. Can we help y'all develop a party? A Panther formation. Could we help y'all any other way? What are the needs of the people where we can get y'all to join together so these type of things won't happen again? So I mean, I respect everything you say. I love the ideology and everything, but I mean, at this point in time, it's about action. It's got to be action, and it's got to be within your 6 hours or within your 15 minutes, whatever. People need to know that it's a Panther in your neighborhood. And I just land my mic. Like I said, I feel so honored to be on this platform with you all. And I just thank you for your time and your service. Like I said, y'all might not know me, but if you ask around, you'll find out about the DC Chairwoman. I know Brother Yanga. How you doing, Brother Yanga? And everything. But I just, like I said, I stepped back and I'm just focused on my community. Focused on DC, keep a food pantry here. And on Thursdays, or I'm trying to get another free breakfast program here on Saturday mornings and sometime where we just fix breakfast and pass it out to the community. So if y'all want to support us in DC, we still here, Give us a shot. Give me a shout out. You can email me or hit me up on Facebook or YouTube. It don't matter. Thank you, guys.
Well, let the listening audience know your email, how they can contact you, Sister Chairwoman.
Okay, it's Janae ANI Earle EARLE @gmail.com, or you can email newblackpantherdc@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate you for coming on.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Right,
no problem. Black Power.
Black Power. If don't nobody else got nothing to say, I'm gonna get ready to close out. If don't nobody else got anything they want to add to the conversation before we close out. Brother E, you always talking, you a war.
Yeah, I've got a whole bunch to say, but I ain't gonna hold folks. I know folks got things to do, and we didn't win the time, so I'll save it to next time. And Brother hopefully War. The DC Chairwoman will come back because it's directly for her.
Brother War.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I did want to recognize the fact that we did have other formations on, brother with the New Black Panther Party, and Sister Janae, I believe, also. I'm not sure if she's still with the New Black Panther Party. Multiple formations on. The bottom line, everybody's emphasizing the work in the community itself would define what a Panther is. Going back to one of the things we talked about, it's like you're not trying to live up to a specific in terms of the parade. You're just doing what you're supposed to do in the community to recognize you as a Panther. So you're not trying to showboat and improve anything, anybody. What you're doing is you're doing what you're supposed to do, and that's building that legacy and helping the people and engaging the people. So I did just want to acknowledge that. So I appreciate y'all for jumping on. And Sister Taz is also out of San Diego, where I'm at.
True indeed. True indeed. Again, we'd like to thank everybody that got on, everybody that expressed an opinion, everybody that added to the conversation. When we do these lives, we do it for two reasons. One, we believe in getting ideas, because we don't believe we know it all. So we believe in getting ideas from various people that have put in the work in their communities to see what their ideas and their concepts look like. Because what we like to do, and he talked about it earlier, we three like to sit down and take those ideas, butt heads with them, wrestle with them, look them up, and we like to present that idea back out. And that's the purpose of the Panther 48 YouTube channel. It ain't to promote one particular division of Panthers. It's to promote Panther culture and Panther principles, period. So we open this format for that. especially when we do lives. Another reason is we had a lot of detractors in our comment section, and none of them showed up to do battle, but we wanted to give them a platform to tell us why they disagreed with the things that we had said and we had put out, because we don't believe we put out anything negative, misleading, or incorrect. So we opened the floor and we put the open invitation out there to allow anybody to come in and do battle if they felt the need to do battle. The problem is, and this brother reminded me of this earlier, in prison you call it a cell warrior. You'll have somebody behind those bars locked down and they'll scream and they'll talk the biggest noise in the world. Soon as them bars open up and you go to looking around, you can't find out who that was talking that noise. And we opened this floor and we were gonna let our pit bull dog, Brother E out of Florida, out on them today, and nobody showed up to do battle. So I'm gonna say that, and I'm gonna keep that on the live. Nobody showed up to do battle. So as brother, I'm gonna close this the way Brother E usually would close it. So shut your mouth, sit down and learn something and put in the work. Peace and power. I thank all y'all for coming in.
All the people.
All power.
All power to the people.
All power to the people.